Good morning. We now call the Committee on Gubernatorial Appointments to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator O'Loughlin.
Here.
Lukemeyer. Bean. Here. Beck. Here. Bratton. Brown 26. Berger. Here. Moon. Mosley. Here. Roberts. Here. Williams.
Thank you. We've established a quorum. We'll now begin our hearing. Today we have 4 nominees. I'll announce the nominee and the sponsoring senator who will join them for a picture. If the nominee's family is here today, they are more than welcome to join. Senators, whenever you are done presenting, please go to the Senate desk and sign the document that we need by the Secretary of the Senate. Our first nominee is Charles Hausman. All right, our first nominee is Brigadier General Charles Hausman. He's nominated to be Adjutant General of the Missouri National Guard. Are there any questions from anyone on the committee? I'm sorry, I forgot about it.
We can go that way if that's the way you want to go.
Yeah, go ahead. I got kind of in a hurry. Senator Bernskoetter is the sponsoring
Thank you,
senator.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. Like Madam Chair said, my name is Mike Bernskoetter, representing the 6th District. Brigadier General Hausman, a native of St. Joe, Missouri, holds a Bachelor of Science in Aviation Technology and a Master of Science in Aviation Safety from the University of Central Missouri, as well as a Master of Arts in National Security and Strategic Studies from the U.S. Naval War College. General Hausman enlisted in the Army Reserves in 1988, joined the Missouri National Guard in 1989, and later transferred to aviation in 93. General Hausman's most recent assignment was the Deputy Director of Civil Protection Excellence in Washington, D.C. He has served in various commanding roles, including commander of the 135th Attack Renaissance Battalion in the 35th Combat Aviation Brigade. He has also held key staff positions such as Deputy Adjutant General and Director of Aviation Safety for Joint Force Headquarters, Deputy Commander of the 70th Troop Command, Executive Officer of the 35th Combat Aviation Brigade. General Hausman deployed 3 times in support of Operation Iraq Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation Inherent Resolve / Spartan Shield. He has served numerous awards. He's Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit with Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal with 3 Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster, Air Medal with numeral 2, and the Master Army Aviator Badge. He is a qualified pilot on 4 different helicopter airframes and is qualified as instructor pilot on 2 different helicopter airframes. And I present you with Brigadier General Hausman for your questioning. If you have any questions for him, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions from anyone on the committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Moon.
General Hausman, thank you for stopping by the office. I really enjoyed the conversation we had, and your background is extensive, and your experiences, they're admirable. And so I didn't ask you this question, I don't think, and I wish I'd kind of given you some forewarning on it, but it has to do with the Guard and how it relates to foreign offenses or offensives. There's been a bill filed that would disallow, and I'm not sure how far that's going to go, but it would disallow the advancement of our troops to be deployed on foreign soil for battles that have not been constitutionally declared as a war. I think the last war that has been declared was World War II. But in any case, can you tell me what your thoughts are with regard to protecting our men and women, Missourians, who may not have a choice, especially if we're sending them, and I know you sign a blank check, and I admire you for that, but should we be sending our men and women into harm's way when Congress hasn't approved a war?
Absolutely. Good morning, and thank you for the question. So the bill I believe you are referring to is a bill called Defend the Guard. It is being sponsored, and I don't know actually who is sponsoring it at the national level, pushing it across many of the state legislators. I will tell you that in discussions with all of the adjutants general across the 54, unanimously, we think that this is a bad bill. And the reason is the purpose of the Army and the Air National Guard is to be a combat reserve of the United States Army and the United States Air Force. Clearly, those entities can be pushed forward for conflict at any time, but if they cannot access their reserve, then it begs the question, why are we paying for the reserve? The Missouri National Guard receives most of our funding from the federal government, to the tune of a little over $500 million this year. If the federal government cannot access the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard because there's a state statute that prevents it, we firmly believe that that funding will be at risk and that those missions will also be at risk. So that's why we feel like this is probably not in the best interest of the National Guard.
And I guess we won't solve this today, and I'm not wanting to enter into a lengthy debate for the sake of the other appointees in our committee, but I would like to discuss perhaps more at length, because I think we've actually removed the authority of the governor in some senses there for protecting the borders of the state too. So anyway, I appreciate your input there, and maybe we can talk
I would love to sit down
in the future.
and discuss
Great.
with you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Senator Luetkemeyer.
General Hausman, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. So first of all, I'm super excited about your nomination for a whole host of reasons. One, you're super qualified to do it, but also I'm a big fan of your mother and father, who are constituents of mine in St. Joe. Known Dan and Judy for many years. Whenever we met last time, I gave you one small little piece of homework, and you'll recall what it was. I was curious the last time that a St. Joseph native was appointed as the Adjutant General, and I didn't know if you were able to go back and do some historical research and figure out when the last time is that happened.
Good morning, and thank you for the question. I will let my mother know.
Very good.
So yes, there has been one other Adjutant General that was from St. Joseph. It was in 1917. James McCord. Interestingly, James McCord was the Adjutant General from 1917 to 1917. In August of 1917, the entire Missouri National Guard, over 14,000 soldiers, was mobilized for World War I. And so at that point, there was no more Missouri National Guard. So he resigned and actually became the head of the Selective Service for the state of Missouri and continued to help get soldiers in for the war effort.
Well, that's a very fascinating history, and I appreciate you taking the time to look that up and share it with the committee.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to say
Roberts?
congratulations, sir. You're extremely accomplished, and I look forward to working with you in this new role.
Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next nominee, Sarah Willson, as Director for the Department of Health and Senior Services. Also Senator Bernskoetter. Senator?
You want to do it the way you did last time?
No,
Just-
go ahead. Just go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I have Sarah Willson here for, she was appointed the Director of Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services by the Governor Kehoe on January 14, 2025. Mrs. Willson brings a wealth of valuable experience to the department, given her background as a practicing nurse and a healthcare executive. Mrs. Wilson's healthcare career has been defined by advocating for advanced quality care, developing efficiencies and improving outcomes for patients, as well as collaborating with lawmakers to develop healthcare legislation at the state and federal level. She has led statewide conversations on improving care for children, women, seniors, and other vulnerable populations. Mrs. Wilson was born in Missouri and raised in a rural community. Growing up, she and her family used services as their local public health agency, which introduced her to the importance of power of public health system. Prior to joining DHSS, Mrs. Wilson served as Vice President of Clinical and Regulatory Affairs for the Missouri Hospital Association for nearly a decade. She provided clinical and regulatory guidance to more than 140 Missouri hospitals in rural and urban communities, serving as a key expert on licensing, survey processes, and compliance for acute care, critical access, long-term care, rehabilitation, and psychiatric facilities. Mrs. Wilson has also held leadership roles with Compass Hospice, and palliative care, where she oversaw operations in multiple states and became a certified hospice and palliative care administrator. At Capital Region here in town, she directed patient care services across several departments. Mrs. Wilson has a Master of Business Administration in Health Management from William Woods University and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of Missouri, Columbia. She is a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives and has been recognized with several awards throughout her career. And she would be, I'm sure if Senator Meyer gave her any homework, she probably did that, and she'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Before I ask if anybody else has questions, I met with Ms. Wilson, well, more than once, and I think in our environment today, especially since the day of COVID, we've had a lot of ups and downs in the area of health, and I think that people are looking for someone who is transparent and understands that we all have a lot of responsibilities for our own self, and if we have someone as the director of the Department of Health and Senior Services, especially senior services, because I've worked in that field and now I am one, so in case I have to call. She's been very responsive to me. This is my point. Sometimes when you try to help solve a problem from your area or from a constituent, you contact someone in a department and then they work on it, but it seems like it doesn't really get resolved. But she has resolved issues for me already, and I really appreciated that, and I respect anybody that can, at least you can talk to them and they'll come by and see you and they understand what the issue is and they try to help you solve it. And I think that almost above anything else is what we're looking for in someone who's running a department, because I do feel some of the departments get groupthink, and that they're only really talking to the people that are working there, but they're not really engaging with the public. And if there's ever been a time that we need to engage with the public, it is now, because no one trusts anybody in the area of health. And I think that she will do a great job, and I am wholeheartedly supporting her. And does anyone else have a question?
You did good.
No?
You did good.
No? Well, that's it. No one has a question for you. I want to thank you for being willing to serve. I don't know if you would like to say a few words while you're here.
Well, I was wondering how many words I was going to need to say while I was here, but what I will tell you is, in the 13 days that I've been the acting director of the Department of Health and Senior Services, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for your graciousness in meeting with me. And as Senator O'Loughlin said, it is my goal that we display excellence in everything that we do, and excellence comes from doing what we do consistently in a manner that yields that result. And if there's ever an opportunity or a reason that you need to talk with me about something, I will be there to discuss that with you and to try to get to the bottom of the issue. So I thank you for your time, and thank you for today.
Thank you for being here today, and thank you for being willing to serve. We move to our next nominee, Jessica Bax, as Director for the Department of Social Services, sponsored by Senator Brown.
Ready? Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Senator Justin Brown representing the 16th District. I am here today to present Jessica Bax for the Director of Department of Social Services. Jessica has been a public servant with over 19 years of experience. She has management of program for children and adults with disabilities and older adults, including Medicaid, Older Americans Act, and state-funded services. Jessica is passionate about quality improvement and streamlining government operations, client experience, program integrity, incorporating national best practices to ensure a system of care where all Missourians can be safe and healthy. Jessica has quite the resume for this. She is more than qualified. I think she's done a very good job establishing a relationship with partners and stakeholders, including hospitals and nursing facilities, which I think we need as a director in this capacity. And with that, Jessica will try to answer your questions. I'm off the hook now, right?
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Moon.
Ms. Bax, thank you for taking the time to stop by. As you recall, during our conversation, we talked about a need to look into the department, and I'm talking about extensively, and especially in some key areas. And I'm not going to talk about all that we talked about, but that was pulled back because we wanted to give you an opportunity to take a look at how things are running now and determine whether or not you can instigate some solutions. And during our conversation, you talked to me about some of the things you already had planned, and I was really excited to hear that, because if we can do something under your direction, which is necessary, and I think you probably have already determined some of the things that have to be done. It's not going to be an easy task, but we're talking about particularly with the children and how they have been treated and actually mistreated in some cases. It's extremely important that we tackle that issue as soon as possible. So I'm happy to relinquish what we were thinking about to you. Of course, the senator from Shelby was instrumental in that and helping us make that decision. But I'm really pleased that you're taking on this task, and I'm hopeful that in the near future we'll hear some resolutions and we'll actually see the results of your efforts. And if you want to talk about anything with regard to that, or some of the things you've seen, or what plans you might have, please take opportunity now to do that.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, everybody who was able to make time. One of the things that I knew going in was that this was not an easy position, right? This is a challenging department. It's the largest department, and that is exciting to me because there are so many things that we can work on to fix that are really kind of the safety net for Missouri. And when you have looked at the history of social services, we have kind of an instability in leadership, and that really has led us to where we're at today. We've inherited a lot of issues at that department that need to be resolved. So what I'm excited about is really looking at that from a holistic perspective in terms of getting down to the basics of what we are supposed to be doing. What are we trying to achieve? How are we measuring that we got that done? Are we measuring it right, talking to the stakeholders that it actually affects in the programs? And then tracking that performance, reporting back. In that way, when we ask for resources, there is a true, trail of what that need is, and there's evidence and database decision-making. That's really where I want to be responsive to the legislature, because I feel like there is kind of a gray cloud of mist of what is going on in such a large department, and I think we can really work through that together. Appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions? So I met with you. I was impressed with your plan. You had a plan. That right there was impressive to me. And as you mentioned, especially in this department, which is massive, I think there has to be a plan that's clearly communicated to the people that work there. I have often thought that you could go through a department and ask, random people in there, what is your main priority here? And you would get 1,000 different answers because, as you say, we've had different leaders, then we get in the middle of it, and it can really become a convoluted thing. I know that we need a safety net for people, but I also think that we need to encourage people to move up and out of that if they can. And I know in the area of children's services, I've been a foster parent, we've talked about that. We have a lot of children that are, in very, seems like, unstable situations. And so I appreciate your willingness to try to tackle this job, and I know that we'll all be looking forward to seeing what your plans are and, helping you where we can.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you for being willing to serve, and I don't see that we have any other questions. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Our next person, we'll now move to our next nominee, Louise Secker, as a member of the Missouri Community Service Commission, sponsored by Senator Carter.
Yes, we are. And that's pretty good. See, she's cute. You can stay.
Go ahead, Senator Carter.
Madam President, committee member, is that all right to say that? Yes? All right. Louise Secker has served for more than 20 years in volunteer management and nonprofit roles in Joplin, including 20 years as development director of Lafayette House, a nonprofit women's center. She is currently a licensed realtor and is a board member of the Joplin Regional Community Foundation, Jasper County CASA, and the Jackson's Badgers program for athletes with developmental disabilities. There's a heart of mine. She has an extensive history working with volunteer programming and looks forward to her role with the Missouri Community Service Commission. As a side, I just want to say Joplin has a big heart for community service and for not-for-profits and wrapping our arms around those with developmental disabilities. And I think Louise has been at the forefront of that movement. And so it's an honor to be here and present her to you today. And I'm grateful for your service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Luetkemeyer.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Just one quick question. Do you have any suspicious relatives or relations that we should be aware of before we vote on this confirmation?
None in the room that I am aware of. Or
Okay.
claim.
All right. That's good. Smart to disclaim.
Yes,
Very smart to disclaim.
One brother, perhaps.
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
You did notice that he stayed out of the picture. I think he was trying to play into
That was good.
play under the radar.
Senator Moon.
Senator Luetkemeyer and I apparently share a main concern. And I saw the middle name. Probably should have left that out.
I'll learn to do that on my next resume.
Yeah, let this be a lesson too.
Thank you.
No, we're all just joking with you, but thank you for being willing to take this on.
Thank you. I'm
welcome.
looking forward to it.
Anyone else?
All right.
How's your fundraising going? I see you've been involved in that a lot.
I have. Joplin is pretty generous. So
Yeah, they are.
Southwest Missouri, yeah, things are pretty healthy down there. We've done some big campaigns lately for our arts community and through the Community Foundation for Human Services organizations, and it's still good. It's still strong.
So my own personal feeling is that if we're going to move our communities forward in the rural area, and I still consider Joplin rural, even though it's a pretty big town, but it has to have community involvement. And if you have great ideas about how to do that, you must, because I visited Senator Carter and went through a lot of places where there really is a lot of community involvement. I think sometimes people wait for the government to come in and save them, and the government is not going to come in and save us. So we have to find ways to address the needs in our own communities. And I'd just be interested at some point in talking to you about that.
I would love to do that. I'll talk to you about a book I read, The Art of Neighboring.
Okay, yeah.
That is very, that talks about those exact same points.
I think our communities, the communities have kind of shrunk down to where everybody's community is their online community, which is really not a community, and they're really not your friends actually either. And it's kind of been very negative for the ability of people to get together and share concerns and activities. And so I think we need to find a way, other than shutting off the internet, which, I mean, that's a possibility, but everybody's online. So they're not out and about, and they're not seeing, I don't think, all the things that need to be done, nor are they making relationships with other people in their community. So I appreciate your being here today, and I appreciate your willingness to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing. I make a motion for us to enter executive session. Do I have a second? All those in favor, say aye. All opposed? We're now in executive session. I now move that we roll all 4 nominees into one slate. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor, say aye. Opposed? We now have a slate before us. I would move that we do pass the slate out of committee. Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, call the roll.
Senators O'Laughlin,
Aye.
Luetkemeyer, Bean, Beck, Bratton, Brown 26, Berger, Moon, Mosley, Roberts, Williams. Moon and Mosley left their vote with you as the chair. It is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, we have passed the slate, and I move that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Oh, wait, I'm not leaving, am I?
All right, you guys